My new boss fired me before anyone had even found their seats. One moment, he was smiling into the microphone at the Waterfront Innovation Gala, and the next, he said my name like a punchline. "Marlowe Quinn is fired," Rowan Mercer announced, his voice smooth and confident. "The pathetic employee who's been holding us back." The applause was instant. Not hesitant, not confused, eager. A few people even laughed. I stood near the front, close enough to see the smirk he tried to hide, the one that told me he believed he had finally swept the last piece of the old company out of his way. I did not move, not even a breath. Rowan tilted his head as if expecting me to run. "Marlowe, you are dismissed. Please exit the event so we can continue with the celebration." Someone whispered, "Is she really just standing there?" Another voice murmured, "Well, she was here longer than anyone." It was never the cruelty that hurt me. It was the ease in their voices. I tightened my grip on the small gift box in my hands. Gold paper, black ribbon, corners perfectly folded. Rowan had noticed it earlier when he passed by me and said quietly, "Cute. A goodbye present for yourself." I walked forward. His smirk faltered. "Marlowe, this is not the time. It is exactly the time," I said. My voice was steady, almost too steady. I stepped closer until I could see the first flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You forgot something." "Rowan." He straightened his shoulders. "I forgot nothing." I held the gift out to him, both hands extended. "Then, consider this a reminder." People stopped whispering. Cameras stopped moving. Even the musician near the bar lowered his hands from the keys. Rowan glanced at the box as if it might burn him. "What is this A present?" I said softly. "From your biggest mistake." The applause had died. Every face was turned toward us. Every breath felt suspended in the air between his fingertips and the gift he thought he understood. He had not opened it yet, but he would. And when he did, everything he thought he controlled would shift. I remember that moment clearly, the silence, the weight, the truth waiting inside that small box as the exact point where the story really began. I used to believe that hard work protected you, that if you built something brick by brick, you earned a place inside it. For 5 years, I lived inside that belief. 5 years of strategy meetings at midnight, hardware testing that stretched into sunrise, and budgets so thin they felt like paper held over flame. Back then, the company was nothing more than a leased room in an old building near the Willamette River. I handled everything design, numbers, operations, investor calls, even the coffee orders when we could barely afford beans. When we hit a funding drought and nearly folded, I cut my own hours and refused a raise just to keep the junior staff paid. No one asked me to do it. I simply thought we were building something worth protecting. When the board finally announced we had secured new capital, people hugged in the hallway. Someone joked that I should have my name carved into a wall somewhere. I laughed, thinking loyalty meant something. It did not last long. The investors wanted fresh leadership, a phrase polite enough to hide the truth. On a rainy Monday, Rowan Mercer walked into the office wearing a tailored coat and a smile that never reached his eyes. He shook my hand lightly, as if testing the temperature of a room. "You must be Marlowe Quinn," he said. "The legacy staff." Legacy. I repeated. "That is one word for it. I am here to modernize everything you built," he added, already scanning the office as if deciding what to remove first. There was no hostility in his tone, just certainty. A man who believed he had been hired to fix something broken. I watched him move from desk to desk, taking notes, giving short instructions, claiming space that had once belonged to all of us. And in the span of an afternoon, the work I had carried for years began to feel like it no longer had a place. The first change slipped in quietly, almost politely. Rowan sent a company-wide calendar update and removed my name from the weekly strategy meeting. When I asked him about it, he smiled like it was nothing. "Oh, Marlowe. I assumed you were overloaded," he said. These meetings are for the new direction. Fresh eyes. I created the framework those meetings are built on. I replied, "That is exactly why you should rest. You are too close to it." Each week, another door closed. A report I wrote came back revised in Rowan's voice. My analysis softened, my conclusions replaced with vague optimism. I confronted him once. "You rewrote the entire section on forecast risk," I said. I adjusted the tone. He answered, "You make uncertainty sound alarming. We need confidence, not caution. It is factual. It is emotional," he corrected, tapping the page. "This company needs a steadier voice." Steadier, meaning his. I found out through a junior analyst, Hannah, that Rowan had reassigned half of my responsibilities to employees who had been with us for less than 6 months. She apologized when she told me. "He said it was temporary," she murmured. "He said you were stepping back." "Stepping back," I said quietly. "That is news to me." Word spread fast in a company our size. Conversations paused when I entered a room. People avoided my eyes, lowering their heads as if afraid association might pull them down with me. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I could outwork whatever Rowan was doing. But each day felt smaller than the last. The breaking point came when I saw the project folder for our online expansion model, the one I had spent 2 months building, sitting in the recycling bin on Rowan's desk. I lifted it out. "You did not even open this," I said. He didn't look up from his laptop. "I do not need to. Anything built before I arrived belongs to a different era." "A different era," I repeated, feeling something inside me crack. "Yes," he said simply, "and we are moving on from it." He finally looked at me then, calm, certain, as if my work had never mattered at all. The team review meeting was already tense when Rowan called my name. He held my market projection packet between 2 fingers, as if it were something he preferred not to touch. "Marlowe Quinn's forecast," he announced, "a perfect example of why we must modernize our approach." I kept my posture steady. "The numbers are conservative because the adoption rate has shifted. The demographic data, Marlowe," he cut in. "Your data is from another era. You are stuck in the past, and it shows." A few people shifted in their chairs. No one spoke. He slid my packet across the table toward me. This level of analysis might have worked 5 years ago, but not now. We cannot lead innovation if we cling to outdated instincts. Instincts, I repeated. These projections are based on verified trends. I presented the comparative charts in the appendix. Rowan smiled the way someone smiles before closing a door. There it is again. That defensive tone. Numbers evolve, Quinn. But you resist change. The silence in the room tightened. A junior associate lowered her eyes. Our product manager cleared his throat, then said nothing. I felt the humiliation settle like heat beneath my skin. "I am presenting facts," I said quietly. "You are presenting fear," Rowan replied, "and fear has no place in where we are going." He moved on as if the conversation never happened. I sat through the rest of the meeting without hearing a word. That night, I opened a blank resignation document on my laptop. I typed my name, then deleted it, typed it again. My hands shook with the weight of every year I had given this place. I closed the laptop and rummaged through an old storage box beside my desk, needing anything to anchor myself. Beneath invoices and early concept sketches, I found a small black USB drive. The label, written in my handwriting, read Foundations 2018. I held it in my palm for a long moment, feeling something shift inside me. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop with the same hesitation someone might have opening a long locked drawer. A single folder appeared, IP Registration 2018. My breath stalled. Inside were scans of the original documents from the year we first built the company's framework. The signatures, the descriptions, the clauses, every detail I had forgotten I once fought to protect. And there, printed clearly on the registration form, was my name beside the former co-founders, Marlowe Quinn, co-owner of Core Methodology and Proprietary Systems. I whispered the words aloud, barely trusting them. Rowan had been promoting a product built on the very structure I helped create, and legally, he could not use or launch any of it without my written approval. I scrolled through each page, my hands tightening on the edge of the desk. I picked up my phone and called the only person who would understand the weight of what I was seeing. Isla, it is Marlowe. I need you. Dr. Isla Vance answered on the second ring. Tell me what happened. I found the original intellectual property files, I said. My name is on them, as co-owner. Silence. Then a low, steady breath. Send everything, right now. I sent the scans. Within minutes. Isla called back. Marlowe, this is not minor. If these documents are valid, Rowan cannot legally move forward with his launch, not without your explicit consent. He does not have it. I said, he cannot get it, she replied firmly. A tremor went through me, fear, relief, both at once. I opened the USB folder again, searching for the final piece, the hard copy signature page that made everything binding, but it was not there. Isla, I said slowly, the last page is missing. Her voice sharpened. You need that page. Without it, they will argue the registration was incomplete. I stared at the empty space on the screen, every second growing heavier. Somewhere in this building or in the years I had lived inside it, the page that could stop Rowan's entire launch had gone missing. I met Isla the next morning in the narrow storage room behind our old office suite. She stood with gloves on and a stack of empty folders at her feet. If the page exists, she said, it is here. Somewhere. We dug through box after box, early prototypes, abandoned drafts, binders with peeling labels. I found 2 dead USB drives, a coffee-stained notebook from our first year, and a folder of budget calculations written during a winter when we could barely afford heat. This company survived because you refused to let it die, Isla said quietly. I shook my head. Survival means nothing without proof. We kept looking. After nearly an hour, Isla pulled a cracked binder from the bottom of a stack. This looks older. I opened it. Pages stuck together. Contracts from our earliest days shifted under my fingers. And then wedged between 2 outdated vendor agreements I saw it. The missing page. My signature. The co-founder's signature. The date. The timestamp. The legal seal. Isla let out a breath she had been holding. There it is, she said. This page alone can freeze Rowan's entire launch. She took photos immediately, backed them up, and slid the page into a protective sleeve before drafting the cease and desist documents. I watched her type my name into the header. For the first time in weeks, something inside me steadied. As we left the room, my phone buzzed. A message from Rowan. Consider resigning before the launch. It would be better for everyone. Isla read over my shoulder. He knows you found something. I stared at the screen. Rowan never softened his threats, never suggested anything for everyone's sake. He commanded, he announced, he cut people away cleanly. This was not a warning. It was fear dressed as kindness. And fear only appears when someone realizes the ground beneath them is beginning to shift. Isla arrived at my apartment that evening with her laptop tucked under her arm and an expression that told me she had found something sharp enough to cut through whatever Rowan thought he controlled. I traced the source of that anonymous inquiry. She said the moment I opened the door, the one asking about purchasing your intellectual property rights. I stepped aside to let her in, and it was Rowan. She said, not even cleverly disguised. The metadata links directly to a secondary account registered under his full name. My breath left me in a single rush. He tried to buy my rights after firing me. He tried to buy them before firing you, Isla corrected. She opened her laptop and angled the screen toward me. The email is dated 1 week before he removed you from the strategy meeting. I stared at the message short, transactional, cold. Rowan had offered to sell the system for a projected amount in the millions. He told the competitor he could acquire the remaining rights for a fraction of their value once I was no longer involved. He planned this. I whispered. Every meeting, every insult he was preparing to force me out. Isla nodded, and he did not stop at an email. The competitor sent over preliminary call logs. She tapped the screen. He contacted them first. He pitched your framework as if it were entirely his creation. My hands tightened into fists. He thought he could erase me, then cash out on what I built. He underestimated you, Isla said. Badly. I closed the laptop gently, even though every part of me wanted to slam it shut. Rowan's plan was no longer a suspicion. It was documented, traceable, and tied directly to his name. And with the launch only hours away, he had no idea what was waiting for him. The Waterfront Innovation Gala pulsed with voices long before the lights dimmed. Investors clustered near the entrance, shaking hands with practiced enthusiasm. Journalists adjusted their badges, ready for quotes Rowan had rehearsed for weeks. He walked among them like a man unveiling a monument he carved himself. "Marlowe," he said in passing, barely glancing at me. "Thank you for attending. I trust you will remain professional this evening." I held the small gold-wrapped box against my side. "I always am." Rowan gave a thin smile. "Good. Tonight is pivotal. A new era." He moved on before I could answer, already telling a reporter about visionary leadership. Across the room, his voice carried. "We are leaving behind outdated models and stepping into the future." Every word he spoke had been built on the framework he claimed I never understood. I stayed near the front, waiting. Isla was outside with the document sealed. "Timestamp ready," she had whispered before I walked in. "When he opens that box, everything changes. I will send the filings the moment you give the signal." Cameras shifted toward the stage as Rowan climbed the steps, adjusting his tie with theatrical ease. He tapped the microphone. "Good evening," he began. "Tonight marks a turning point for our company. And before we begin, there is one piece of housekeeping I must address." A few heads turned in my direction even before he said it. "Marlowe Quinn is no longer employed with us, effective immediately." His gaze snapped to mine. "She has held us back for too long. We move forward without her." Applause followed, quick and obedient. I did not move to leave. Instead, I stepped forward, the gift in my hands catching the light. Conversations stopped. Even Rowan's smile faltered. He stared as I approached. "What are you doing?" I lifted the box slightly. "Finishing what you started?" The applause died instantly. The room tightened around us. Rowan's confidence thinned. Just enough for the first crack to show. Rowan hesitated only a second before taking the box from my hands. His fingers twitched as he worked the black ribbon loose. The room leaned forward without meaning to. Someone silenced their phone. Someone else stopped mid-sip. Even the cameras shifted, as if drawn toward the moment. He peeled back the gold paper and lifted the lid. The first thing he saw was the frame. He froze when he recognized the document inside. "Marlowe," he whispered. "What is this?" "The original intellectual property registration," I said. "Signed, sealed, time-stamped, naming me co-owner of the methodology you are about to present." He stared at the certificate as if the words might rearrange themselves. Behind him, a few investors exchanged sharp glances. Rowan reached into the box again and pulled out the second document. His voice thinned immediately. "A cease and desist. Effective the moment the launch begins," I said. "You cannot legally use my work." The crowd rippled with low murmurs. A journalist raised her phone. A board member took out a notebook. Rowan stepped back from the microphone. "This is fabricated," he said quickly. "She is bitter. She is making accusations out of desperation." I met his eyes, then read the next page. He pulled out the printed metadata logs, his face drained of color. "Where did you get this?" The answer walked through the door. Isla stepped inside, holding a folder stamped with the company seal. "We have already filed the complaint," she said, "and the competitor you contacted has provided call logs and written confirmation of your attempt to sell proprietary information." Someone gasped. Someone else cursed under their breath. A board member rose from his seat. "Rowan Mercer," he said, "you are suspended pending formal investigation." "Step away from the stage." Rowan looked at me, then furious, terrified, and small. My hands were steady. Everything he built on my silence had just collapsed. 1 month after the gala, Rowan Mercer's name appeared in an official bulletin from the state regulatory board. The announcement was brief, but its meaning was absolute. He was barred from holding any executive leadership role for falsifying documents and engaging in deceptive trade practices. His severance was revoked. His future bonuses were dissolved. Every professional credential he had relied on was stripped away. He called no one. No one called him. I learned later that he had taken an administrative job in a small office outside the city. No team to command, no spotlight, no stage. Meanwhile, the board requested a meeting with me. We sat around a long table, the atmosphere far quieter than the night everything unraveled. One of the members cleared her throat. "Marlowe, we would like you to return. Not as staff, as a partner. We need stability, and we need someone who understands the foundation of this company." I kept my voice even. "If I return, it will be under one condition. This company rebuilds with transparency. No more erasing the people who create the work." They exchanged looks, then nodded. Agreed. The offer was formalized by the end of the week. I signed without hesitation, before my first day back. I walked into the empty hall where the gala had been held. The lights were off. The stage was bare. Only faint echoes of that night lived in the corners of the room. I stepped onto the platform where Rowan had stood, where he had tried to make my name small enough to disappear. I let the silence settle around me. Sometimes justice is not about crushing someone. It is about standing where they tried to remove you and saying your own name without apology. What would you do if someone tried to erase everything you built? Would you walk away or rebuild it on your own terms?